All right. Welcome to EIPIP meeting 44. I have shared the agenda in chat. So the first item that we have added here is add labels to PRs. This was brought up by Greg, not the Greg Coleman, but the one with ChainSafe. He mentioned it in the EIP editing Discord channel. I was also interested in sorting these PRs and once requested to get the triaging permission, but it was brought to our attention that triaging permission is not possible with the present Ethereum GitHub for so many reasons. So it was dropped. But I really like the idea of Litecoin of having it done by the bot. I was hoping for get some thoughts on that. I don't see Alita on the call, but if anyone else has any thoughts, like, is it going to be really difficult?
I'm a fan of the bot doing everything. Of course, it takes engineering to do it, so we just have to decide whether it's worth it or not. It wouldn't be so for purely status change. Should be relatively easy. So the problem is like analyzing a diff is non-trivial. Like it's possible, but it's a bit of work to analyze a diff and identify like what changed within a PR. So from an engineering standpoint, I think it's going to be a good amount of work, and relative to the benefits, it's not obvious that it would be worth it. At least not at the top of the list. Like there are other things I think it would be more beneficial to have the bot do. For new EIP, that one could be done automatically. I think pretty easy, relatively easy. The other two, though, I think are going to require a bit of work.
Yeah, I was thinking that new would be easier relatively. Okay. Okay, I will go ahead and add that as a feature request for the EIP bot, and obviously we'll try to prioritize other tasks that are already listed there, and let's hope to like keep it in the list. Maybe sooner or later we'll get it in. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of just having a backlog of all the things that we would like to see the bot do, and then whether we get to them or not is a separate conversation.
That sounds good. All right. Moving on, the next one is a general consensus for closing the discussion to issues. So I have referred to 3 links here. So I'm a little lost here. Maybe I missed some important piece of information. I thought the group came to an agreement that we will try to enforce a Fellowship of Ethereum Magician as the only discussion took place, and the bot was even updated accordingly to provide a message whenever a new issue is created, mentioning that this is, if you are creating this issue for discussion, please close it and open it at FAM. But recently I came across a new issue, and that is marked to as discussion too. So I was wondering if by any chance anyone has any information that something may have changed.
So, if I remember correctly, the conclusion we came to was that we would strongly recommend Ethereum Magicians, but we wouldn't strictly enforce it. So you tell people you should really use Ethereum Magicians unless you have a very good reason not to. Whatever that might be, we didn't really specify, but the idea is that issues are still acceptable but frowned upon. Given that, there are some people who feel very strongly that they want to create an issue discussion, not an Ethereum Magician discussion, and so they do. And separately, we also have discussions from a long time ago. So before we made that change, there's lots of discussion issues for that. And so even if we do strictly enforce that, we still have to decide what to do about discussion issues going for the old stuff.
Well, I agree. Yeah, that was like a strong recommendation, and definitely it wasn't enforced. Though the idea was slowly we can move people unless they have like very strong reason of bringing it back to the issues section. For older issues, I don't know, when we started running the bot to make it stale, the idea was to close the issues which are not in active discussion. However, if that proposal is on the GitHub repository, the discussion tool link is available there, even if the issue is closed, and that will always accept the issues. So that is something, and if people want to keep it open forever, it would definitely will get lost because nobody scrolls back like 10 or 12 pages and to find that particular issue to comment on that. But with the help of link added to the proposal, it is way easier that we can do. I think the idea was to stop getting more discussion to issues created, so we can use that particular channel for the useful issues that people would like to generally discuss. I mean, again, this is not up to me because I'm neither the author nor the EIP editor, but I was just trying to get clear picture to the community so they would know what to do and like where to go. So if we are recommending from even with the help of bot that you should be going and opening and discussion to link at FEM, and at the same time we are allowing people to have this opened here, I don't think we will be at a place where we can actually share the information in the right way. So it will be again the same thing where we started.
Unfortunately, Alex isn't here. He's the primary proponent of keeping discussion issues open. Matt, do you want to try to steelman his argument against me? Guess not. So
Can you hear me?
I can't now. Couldn't before we were talking.
I don't really know what his argument is to Stillman, but my argument would be why.
Connected.
They're free. Right?
Sorry,
Sorry, did you say why?
My audio is like switching between my phone and
You keep cutting out, Matt. I think you said your audio is switching between your phone and I'm going to guess your cat.
my cat just keeps trying to steal the audio. Can you hear me now? Yeah?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay.
I think
I don't really see the argument to do anything. And so I guess the argument is it's acceptable right now. I would be in favor of saying you can no longer use issues, but ones that exist, I don't see a reason to change that, close them.
I think the idea is we want to have the GitHub issues list be an actually useful list rather than a list full of
Won't
things.
it like fairly quickly become useful if we just stop allowing people to create new issues that are discussion areas?
well, that was
like
the idea. Yeah, that was the idea when we started using bot.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Matt. I think you're a little lagged, so I think we talked over each other, but you go first. And we have lost Matt to his cat again.
Does he have a cat?
Wow, I'm just like really having trouble this morning.
While Matt fixes his mic,
I think I'm here.
I think the primary argument for me, you here now?
I'm
pretty sure you're like 30 seconds behind, but go ahead and try to talk.
Hello?
Bing.
Did you hear my argument? Knack.
Okay, there you go.
The argument of like why I think the issues would start becoming useful quickly?
No. You cut out just before you made it.
So we don't necessarily have to clean all of the issues for the issues to become useful. We just have to stop letting irrelevant issues come into place. Of course, there's still going to be like a few dozen issues scattered in the history that are always going to be difficult to find. But I think that this is like a much more reasonable path to having usable issues than clearing all of the issues that exist. I think that that's like a really large task, and we're going to upset people when we close their issues.
So my counter argument is twofold. One, there is value in having the issues list be actually actionable things. Because when you look at GitHub and you see there are 41 open pull requests, that is much more actionable than 500 open pull requests like we used to have. Similarly with issues, if you see 450 issues, no one's going to read through those. Whereas if you have 50 issues, some new apprentice may be like, you know what, I'm going to go through the issues and see if something I can handle or something I can do. Like if they're actually actionable items. The second one is that I would tentatively argue that no one in their right mind finds a discussion link for an EIP by going to the issues list and looking for the EIP. They always start with the EIP and get linked to it, and so closed or open is irrelevant. And so there's no downside to closed, and there's a very minor upside, which is the issues list.
Well, the downside to closed is that it looks like the discussion has been closed. And that may mean that you do not comment.
I see. Your concern is...
That's probably my only concern for having them closed. Otherwise, I think you're right. Nobody goes to the issue list to find the issue.
I see. So your concern is just the kind of psychological effect of closed versus open, and how people
I think it just signals that this discussion is complete now.
Well, I think the old issues...
I do find that to be a mildly compelling argument.
So I'm only mildly against closing the old issues, for what it's worth. It's not something I'm going to lose sleep over.
So I suppose we are actually talking about two things here. One, closing the old issues, and the second one, allowing people to open the new issues. So if we talk about allowing people to open new discussion, is there a general agreement that we can try to request author, let's say if assuming that he does not have very strong reason to go ahead with issues and not go to the FEM to start the discussion to link. I'm especially referring to an issue number 4431 that I think has been started just 10 days ago, and it's fairly new and there's not much of a discussion. And I don't know why BOT did not provide the message saying that you should go ahead and start discussing at FEM, though it was designed that way.
I just don't think we made it an absolute requirement, unless we have, and I misremember.
We didn't. It's just it was... So in, I think, EIP 1, we might have updated it.
Yeah, we at some places, not all the places, because I remember adding it somewhere that it is highly recommended. But when I was checking it today, I found that there are other mentions, and they have this permission to open it at issues. So I was wondering if we can unify that EIP 1 and do it, if all the editors are on board. If not, then we have to leave it the way it is.
I think whether or not we close the issues, we should stop letting people create new ones for discussion threads. We're never going to have that useful of a issues list if that's the case.
Yeah, I generally am in agreement. The one downside is just that, telling people, hey, go create an account at this other place just so you can do some bureaucracy.
And sign in with GitHub.
Does it have GitHub sign-in?
It does have GitHub sign-in.
And does it ask you for a bunch of ridiculous permissions to do so, like a lot of bases do?
I don't recall it asking for anything other than potentially your email, but also it may not even ask for email.
One thing that I want to mention here is generally people who are creating issues or generally they are trying to add a new proposal. They are already there on FEM. I mean, it's rare. I mean, definitely I haven't seen in my experience that someone is not there on FEM and they are trying to do something here on GitHub. So I
And
don't
if
think
they're not, maybe it's a good filter.
I'm not sure if we can come to a conclusion on this right now because I know strong argument is coming from Exec and he isn't in the call. So maybe I will try to write something
Let's
in
open a
the.
PR to change it and discuss it with him on the PR.
That makes sense. All right, I'll go ahead and do that. I will. I mean, if it is fine by this group, then to make it like highly recommended, I will create a pull request to make all the possible changes in EIP one, where we are suggesting where to open the discussion to link.
Perfect. Thanks.
You might also want to update the template.
All right, yes, I can do that too. Okay. Okay, now let's move on to the next one. Um, so the next one is EIP Editors Apprenticeship Meeting. So the meeting went well. Of course, we had a decent attendance of new contributors. Thanks to Timbeko for generating the momentum and help us getting people reach us on the Discord channel. And many thanks to Matt Gannett for answering questions from their group. There were a lot of questions. Just in short, in the meeting yesterday, we had a quick introduction of possible contributors for their background. I presented a 10-minute overview of EIP type category and the present process. Matt took the stream of questions and walked us with reviewing a pull request, which is now merged as an EIP in draft status. Um, I hope most of the questions that we could have expected were answered in that meeting. And the recording is also available now on Categories YouTube for anyone interested to follow what actually happened in the meeting. So we have shared all this information, and if someone is still having question or they would want to reach us, please reach us on ECH Discord, EIP Editors channel to share your questions. We have EIP editors on the Discord, so we hope that your questions will be answered. And we can plan the next meeting in 2 weeks. Matt, if you would like to add anything, did I miss out on anything?
2 weeks. Hold on. Could potentially. I don't think I will be available in 2 weeks. Actually,
Okay.
I think that Tuesday I have something going on all day, but we can figure out
Sure.
that offline.
Yeah, we can do it async. I see some comment here on the chat. We'll get back to that. Let's finish up the agenda item first because those are really low in number. So we are almost on the last item listed on the agenda for today. It's EIP's Insight, the monthly EIP status reporting. I have updated the Insight for November up till 15th November. So far, we have 3 new drafts. One EIP is withdrawn, and two have been moved to stagnant, and 3 EIPs have been resurrected from the stagnant status. The good news is each 64 and 65 are finally in the last call, with the review period ending on November 19th. There are a couple of non-normative changes to funnel EIPs, EIP 2681 and EIP 2124, and there are a few other improvements to EIP 1. So that's all about EIP's Insight, and the link is available in the agenda.
Nice.
There is one more thing. Yes, sorry.
Oh, I just said nice.
Oh no, thank you. I thought someone is saying something and I just spoke over. There is one thing that I wanted to bring here before I actually make a pull request for that. In EIP1, the bibliography section, if we can check it out, it looks like something is wrong with the formatting because I don't see any text over there. When I was looking into the raw draft, it is available. Is it an error or it is supposed to be that?
For which one?
I'm checking.
The bibliography section, it's down.
Looks like it's just missing.
Actually, I found the data is already there. It's just that it's not being
Oh,
shown.
yeah. Let's see. I think it's because Markdown is recognizing this is just a linked list, and it
Uh,
is using it to backfill links.
well, when I was looking into the MD file, it looked like to me the way the it should be formatted is not correct.
So the Markdown renderer sees that list of links, and it's saying, hey, these are just link references, and then elsewhere in the document where that link shows up, it will replace. Like if you do square bracket dev p2p square bracket somewhere else in the document, it will replace that in rendering with that link, but it doesn't display that below. So you could just get rid of the header and put that. I'm not personally a fan of this style of Markdown, but some people like it. Like I prefer just inlining links. So if you search, so if you search the document, the raw version of the document for dev p2p, you'll find it in two places. One, up in the EIP types section, and it just says square bracket dev p2p square bracket. That's it. And then you also find it down in the bibliography. If you look at the rendered version and you go to that the types EIP types section, and you hover over the dev p2p link, you'll notice that it links to github.com/ethereum/wiki/dev p2p wire protocol. And so what's happening is those links down there at the bottom are backfilling to any place that just uses the square bracket notation. Like it's a feature of Markdown that's doing this.
All right.
And so they're not supposed to render on the page at all. Like it's not supposed to be a part of the document that renders visibly. So we have two options. One, we could just stop doing the bibliography style of links. That's my personal preference. So that means where you see square bracket dev p2p square bracket elsewhere in the document, you change that to square bracket dev p2p square bracket open parentheses, and then the link. So you do that instead of just dev p2p instead of that. You do the first one instead of the second one, and then you can get rid of the bibliography section entirely. But someone would just need to go through and update all the links throughout. The other option is just delete the bibliography heading, the subheading, so it doesn't look weird when it's rendered. And you just leave the kind of link list, and maybe put it at the very end of the document after the copyright. I don't know. Like I said, my preference is to just not use that style of Markdown links. I find it confusing, but I'm not that passionate.
Any thoughts, Lifeline?
I don't mind.
All right.
I'll be right back. My headphone battery is dying. I have to replace it.
All right. So if I understand correct, this section is required because we have been using this style for providing links at certain places in the document, and we cannot simply remove this section unless we have these things listed somewhere down. And or the other option is
yeah, so we can. So we can delete the section. Someone just needs to go through and do the work to do so. So right now, throughout the document, there's a mix of linking styles. In some places, we link with title. Some places we use that format, and some places we just use. I wish there's edit feature in here. Let's use that format. So the square brackets followed by the parentheses, that one is an inline link, and so that works just like you'd expect. The title will be what you see when it's rendered, and the link inside the parentheses is what happens when you click on it. For the other format, where it's just square bracket, title, square bracket, and there's no parentheses afterwards, that one refers to a link that is somewhere else on the page. Yeah, so it's somewhere else on the page. So the Markdown renderer will then go through the page and look for somewhere that has something in the format of title, colon, it'll look for that somewhere else in the page, and then when it renders, it will fill in the link. So if we want to delete that section, someone just needs to go through and convert all of the links that are just square bracket links without the parentheses to the ones that have the square bracket and parentheses. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I'm just trying to think over here is like, it definitely is helping. When it was written for the first time, it might have been very helpful because they don't have to repeat adding link everywhere. And if someone has to go do that, that should not be a problem because that is going to be just one time task to be done, and people can start following that as a practice for anything new to be added here. I'm just wondering, like, that should not be something heavily debated. So before doing that, maybe I can create an issue or maybe a pull request and then see what is the general opinion there. Because this seems like a big change because people who have written it initially might have considered that not mentioning it again and again, maybe for so many reasons, just removing it all.
Yeah. So that's the theory behind it. In this case, I believe every single one of those links is used only once. So it didn't actually work out that way.
Okay.
I'm doing a quick check, and so far I have found no duplicates in my quick spot check. Like they're all linked exactly once without the link, and then exactly once down the bibliography section. Like none of them are reused. And so the argument you made is the reason people say this is a better way. But in practice, it doesn't appear to actually be benefiting us at all. And in fact, some of them are in the bibliography and don't exist anywhere else. Like
even in the document?
Yeah, so like the pull request link is in the bibliography, but doesn't exist anywhere in the page anymore. And so this is the problem with those sorts of links is it's very easy when you edit the document to just like delete a line, and then you don't realize that there was a bibliography link that needs to be deleted as well, which is why I prefer the inline.
All right. I can take up on this task. Maybe I'll give some time and look into what all links need to be updated, whatever is referred in the document. And if these are not like so many places, then definitely we can go ahead and do that. Okay. That's on that. I see on the comment, Britton, you have mentioned about some ideas. Do you want to speak for it or? I don't know, let me open there.
Yeah, so it's just something that didn't get that much attention back in the R&D Discord. I was wondering if anyone read that and had some thoughts there, but we can discuss it another time, or maybe not. Just the general vibe is just say, yeah, for very complex things, specs versus EIPs, but I don't know.
So we definitely have talked about it and thought about it a lot. Currently, Sam and others, Sam et al., is working on a executable spec for Ethereum. This means, so the idea is basically a version of Ethereum written explicitly for being readable, not for being performant or usable. And so it likely, or in fact we know, it will not be able to run in the real world. It's written in Python, it is unoptimized, you will not be able to sync mainnet off of it, you will not be able to run it, but it is will pass all the tests, and it is a functional client. And again, the goal here is it's written to be incredibly readable. And so the idea is in the future, hopefully near future, we'll see how fast they can get that done. Instead of having the yellow paper, which is both unreadable and not executable, we will have the executable spec, which people can read and execute. And so when we do changes, we can just make a PR essentially, or a diff against that executable spec and say, this is the change. And the reason this is valuable is things like EIP 1559, for example. We basically had to kind of redefine a bunch of stuff in the specification section of that, so that way the change made sense. Like, in order to explain the change, we had to first explain the existing system. And this is very tedious and annoying, and it leads to bugs and whatnot. So that's the idea, is executable spec in the future. When that lands, the question then becomes, do we still use EIPs or do we not use EIPs? And there are definitely several different camps of people in this discussion. There's Tim's in the camp of he would like to keep the EIP process and have the EIPs maybe link out to a diff against the executable spec in the specification section. Sam, I believe, wants to keep the certain sections of the EIP, such as security considerations, backward compatibility, rationale, motivation, in a isolated document, but in the specs repo. So maybe in the form of like still a markdown document of some kind, and they would sit next to the change itself in some way. And there's people like me who are on the far extreme of, I would prefer to just say keep all that information, because I consider it to be transient information. Keep that information in the PR that goes along with the spec change, but don't retain it somewhere permanent. And so there's definitely lots of discussion on this, lots of differing viewpoints and opinions. I think at the moment, we're all just kind of waiting for the executable spec to be finished before we commit to anything, because we want to wait and see how that turns out, and wait to see, what structure is like, and maybe try a few different things before going too hard on one solution. So does that answer your question of, or would you like to discuss it more? I'm open for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is that Sam Wilson?
Yeah, Sam Wilson is the one. I think Matt might know better. I think Sam is leading that charge.
Yeah, he is.
Recently, Sam Wilson came on EIPIP, and he provided the latest on the execution layer specs that he is working on for documenting in Python, as well as he proposed his new idea of EIP process that he thinks could be useful. But that's in thought phase right now. Probably will keep on iterating and think what would be the better way or better approach to continue the EIP process once this spec is like fully functional and people are out of the merge thing and start thinking in this direction. I hope.
Do you have a link to that Peep and Eep episode by chance?
Yeah, I will send it to you.
I was going to go watch it, and then I think I got distracted with a bunch of other stuff and never did.
No problem. I will share that with you. I'll DM you. And I want to bring one last thing. Okay. If we are done with this topic, Britton, did that answer your questions?
Yeah, no, that was awesome.
Okay, thank you. So I just wanted to discuss one more thing before we can leave for today. It's just for formatting. I have seen that in EIP1, we try to refer status in different ways. Sometimes it is in running letter, sometimes it is in capital letter. So I was trying to think like, is it any value making it a standard that whenever we are referring to a status, it should be all caps, and whenever we are referring it to a word, it can be in running. Say for example, review. Review is a review that we do for proposal, but review is also a status. So when we are trying to refer it as a status and we start using it as in all caps, would help people to differentiate between what review we are talking about. I mean, it's just my general thought. What do you guys think?
I find myself sometimes doing that, just out of habit. I think not habit. I think for the same reason that you just described, I do it. It's kind of subconscious, and when I catch myself doing it, I correct and remove the all caps, but if everybody agrees to do all caps, I'm okay with it.
I don't really like all caps, personally.
You don't, or you do?
I don't.
Would you
I don't know
prefer
why.
all lowercase?
I guess I haven't thought about this very deeply, but like, it doesn't feel like the status needs to have all caps on it.
What about if we prepend it with an underscore? Does that make you feel better?
If you put 0x in front of it, yeah, this EIPIP is 0x final. We can implement it.
Sold.
I don't really care that much, but I don't really like all capital words when it's not really that necessary.
So I think the differentiation between an official status and just discussing like the general concept of something's in review or something's in draft is valuable. I do wonder though, is it sufficient to just maybe capitalize the first letter for the status that follows normal English language conventions, where if it's you consider it like a proper noun sort of.
Yeah, I would be more on board with that.
Or a title.
All right, because in the EIP1, at the moment, I see that it is a mix of both. Like some places when we are writing it, explaining the statuses, it is kind of all caps, and somewhere it is running. So
I would also be down with composing in backticks and using lowercase.
so are you recommending that wherever we find it on all caps, it can be updated to lowercase, all lowercase, or just the first letter as capital?
I'm just proposing an alternative.
I think of those three, my personal favorite I think is uppercase first letter everywhere, that we're referring to the actual state. If someone has a strong argument, otherwise I'm open to it though. And it's not a hill I want to die on at all.
Sounds
It's
good.
not even a hill I want to really. It's not even really a hill I want to fight on.
No, it just came to my attention because sometimes in my general presentation, I talk about statuses, and I myself write it in both ways, sometimes running and sometimes in all caps. So I was thinking to bring it to a standardization that I can follow it for myself, and that's why I wanted to bring it up to you guys.
Cool.
Okay, well, if no one has strong opinions and everybody's okay with just capital first letter, why don't we just go with that?
I'm cool.
It's in the middle of all lowercase and all caps. so it's a compromise, right?
Okay, that can be the third pull request because I see some places it is all caps, so I can make a pull request to update that in EIP1 too.
If a
Excellent.
stage were multi-words, would it be the first letter of each word?
Yes. So last call is a good example of that one. Last call is 2 words, and the L and the C are both capitals.
Sweet as.
All right. Sorry, you were saying something, Micah?
I said you're right. It is definitely inconsistent in this document. We use just about every form.
No problem. I'll try to update it with whatever we agreed here. I hope that it's not something that people will oppose doing it too. Okay, let's move on to the last item. That's the action item from the last meeting. 43.1 is rename review period end to last call and to be added in the EIP template. I saw a recent merge which suggests that it is something different than last call, and I don't want to debate on that if it is fine by everyone.
Say it again. I missed it.
So I think I saw the pull request where we have actually updated this particular field, but it's not as last call, and it's something different. It's last call uh, review period, last call or something.
Oh yeah. The we renamed deadline, or not deadline, whatever it was called.
Yeah, deadline. Yeah, I think so. It is
Review period end, maybe.
last call and or last call deadline, something. I don't know. I mean, it's again not a hill that I would like to die on, but I just want to say that it has been updated, not accordingly what was discussed, something different, but there is an update that might reflect that it's about the last call period, not the review period. I'm trying to
Maybe I
find the issue.
misunderstand something. Do you have the link to the PR that you're referring to?
Yes, I think I'm trying to pull it out. It should be here in my.
You're talking about Alex's PR, right? Where he
Right.
updated the template and EIP1 to use last call deadline.
Yes, and the number is 4438.
Request 4438.
Yeah.
Oh, this is in the midst of his race to 4444 with Matt.
Oh, sorry. I think, yeah. I think Matt updated it. How is it? Rename review period end to last call deadline.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I think, and basically it was no one when in our last meeting, if I remember correctly, no one cared what it was called, and we all agreed that the name could be
It's
better.
fine.
And so I'm totally fine with the person who made the PR gets to decide. And I think I even told someone that in Discord.
Right. Yeah. I was just trying to make it a point that it has been updated. Now it's no more review period ending. It's reflecting the last call. Not exactly the same wording, but the field is updated now, and it should be better. I mean, making more clarity.
Yep.
All right. The next one is what it takes to be on the list of active editors. Oh, it's just the listing of it. 43.3 to agree on who gets mentioned in EIP's. I think, Micah, you already have merged that pull request there, right? Yeah.
I think so.
4390. And the next one is EIP registries. Oh, we are still looking for it. So if anyone is hearing this call, we are looking for a champion who can champion the idea shared by Nick Johnson in EIP's issue section. And if you're willing to put on time, please reach EIP editors or the cat herders anywhere on the Discord channels, either in the or on the CH Discord. Last one here is Puja to open an issue with ETHBot repo. A little check the bot merge. I think the bot has merged the EIP 2070 that we were having issues with. And yeah, I think that's all from the action items from the last meeting. We have about 5 minutes left. Anyone wants to bring up anything?
That's enough time for me to chastise Matt on EIP number farming.
4444?
Yes.
It's actually pronounced 4 4s. But yeah.
I'm very conflicted because on the one hand, I am a huge opponent to people in positions of power abusing the rules. And I feel like those in power should be held to a far higher standard and punished far more severely than regular plebs who break the rules. On the other hand, I don't have the energy to actually give you a whipping. So I don't know what to do.
I created useful PRs on the race to 444. Any pleb could have done that.
You did.
If some pleb had sniped me, I would have accepted and I would have waited till 55555. It just means that a lot more work would have been done in the meantime.
Note to self: next time I set up an alert, like a page me in the middle of the night, wake me up if I see Matt doing a lot of work. Matt is way too productive today. Something's fishy.
What's the next nice looking number coming up?
That's right.
5K?
What was that, Pooja?
5K.
5K? Yeah,
5,000. Yeah.
5,000 is going to be a doozy.
Actually, this might just be a real quick topic, but I've noticed at least for two ERCs or proposed ERCs, I think one was Diamond Standard and I can't remember the other. They had subtypes and like an A, B, C version. Is there an official idea for the subtypes? They're like alphabet versus numerals.
So EIP numbers are just numbers. So it's just going to be a number from like 1 to 10,000 or whatever. Now, people can put whatever they want in the title. We generally leave that entirely up to the author. I discourage people from... Yeah, so I mean, there is only ERC 1155. There may also be ERC, 7234, which may depend on 1155 or may be derived from 1155, but that is not ERC 1155. It is ERC 7324. I would, if I saw someone referring to their EIP as another EIP number than what it is, I would probably step in and correct them. And if you see someone doing that in the EIP's repo, point it out to me, because that is definitely not acceptable in my opinion. Like, the numbering system exists for a reason, and people should not be trying to basically use the... Like, when I see what you just typed there, my gut is that someone's basically trying to use the marketing pool of 1155 in order to pump their own thing, and I'm very much not a fan of that. The numbering system should not be a marketing scheme. Like, numbers are meant to be monotonically increasing and strictly for organizational purposes. The title is what you should go by. So, like, if you want a cool title, give your EIP a cool title. Like, as much as I hate the Diamond Standard naming system, that's a cool title and it's memeable, and so people can call it the Diamond Standard. So the short answer is you should not be naming an EIP that is not EIP 1155 as EIP 1155 dot something, nor should you name it ERC 1155 dot something.
Okay, yeah, no, I didn't get that across very clearly. I think it was more that I feel like I've at least found on two proposed ERCs that there were subtypes within the document in some senses in like a stronger version than... so like it might lay out three different versions within the same ERCs. I can find the examples if...
I see what you're saying.
I'm not sure. I think I've found them before.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine people doing that. Have you seen them, Matt? You look at ERCs a lot more than I do these days.
I haven't seen people doing this.
I also learned you don't actually read the ERCs when you edit them, so...
I read them once the first time I edit them.
I'll have to think on how I feel about that. Like, I feel like if you're going to have two standards, you should just have two standards. For core EIPs specifically, I strongly advocate to every single author that if you can break an EIP up into multiple EIPs, you should. They go through smoother, they're easier to implement, people can choose whether they implement all or nothing or one or the other. From a communication standpoint, it's way easier. From a coordination standpoint, it's way easier. Like, people should be writing very small EIPs that do the least amount possible. This is similar to the general concept in software engineering, where if you're going to submit a change request, it should be as small as possible. And then you submit multiple small change requests that are each individually useful and individually tested and everything, rather than one monolithic one, because it just makes the process a lot easier. So I feel very similar for EIPs, that really if you've got multiple standards within an EIP, that's a very strong signal to me that you really have multiple EIPs and you should just create multiple EIPs. So yeah, I guess my answer is I don't have a strong opinion on the sub-naming, because I don't think people should be doing that, getting into position in the first place where they need to sub-name. But I probably wouldn't force that on anyone.
I think this is something that has to be given by the EIP editor. So author should not try to grab a number for himself or herself, right, in the first place. And when we are doing it with the help of a pull request or issue number, I don't think this kind of number system should exist in the first place.
Yeah, in this case, what they're saying is that someone wrote an EIP, so let's say EIP 1234. And then within EIP 1234, it has two different standards defined. And they're saying, like, how do you refer to the two different standards? Like, do you do EIP 1234.A and .B? Or do you EIP 1234.1 and .2? Or something else? And my argument is you just have EIP 1234 and EIP 1235.
I would heavily support your argument here. Because as you mentioned that you already have been advocating it for the core EIPs, and that turned out to be really good. It is helpful in implementation. Client devs find it easier to implement. So I'm hoping that it would be helpful in even on the application side if any developer wants to pick up only one part of the EIP and there are two separate EIPs proposing different solutions.
Hey, apparently Tim is still on American time.
He is right on time. It's just that we started an hour early.
Oh, right on time only if you're living in a previous point in history. Can you hear us, Tim?
He's so ashamed. To be fair, I don't know if the calendar then was updated until this morning.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't like, and there is this calendar that is created by Ethereum PM, so that might also need some updating because that's also showing the older one, and the one that I run, I updated it this morning. So my sincere apologies. Yeah.
So what time should this be? Is this
1500
An hour
UTC.
ago.
Yeah.
But this is right on the calendar, or it should be an hour earlier. We're starting an hour late, basically.
We already had the meeting. We just finished.
Oh.
That's what we're saying.
Oh shit! Sorry. Okay, so I've just updated.
But we've agreed that it's not entirely your fault. It seems that the calendars are not all up to date.
So I guess, is there anything really urgent that you really needed me for? Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm gonna change the time zone on the protocol meeting invite to be UTC, which I think we can do now. So that means that it actually stays kind of fixed.
Right.
Great.
And Tim, I would, if possible, I would also like to share the Zoom link there. Do you think it would be a good idea to share the Zoom link over there in that invite?
Well, it's already there. That's how I joined.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine now.
Can I ask a quick question? I guess I'm curious, how do people feel about the new crop is probably too strong of a word, but the couple people who have joined into the EIP editor channels, did anyone make a contribution yet, or is it just too early to tell?
I haven't seen any contributions, at least on the part of the EIPs that I watch. But it's very early, so hard to say if that's just people are still trying to figure out where they fit.
Okay. I also haven't seen a lot of contribution, but I have had a couple of people DM me, so it feels like they're trying to figure out the situation. They'll do some contributing at some point.
Cool. By the way, is this meeting every 2 or 4 weeks? Because the protocol invite is every 4 weeks, but okay. So I'll change that as well. Okay, so that means that the next one would be basically December 1st, 15 UTC.
Oh, well, thank you everyone for joining us today, and hope to see you in next 2 weeks. And thank you, Tim, for already updating the universal calendar that we are recommending people to join and follow. So thanks everyone. See you in 2 weeks.
Thanks. See you.
Bye.
Yeah, everyone. Thanks.
Cheers.